I'm seeing a lot of left-leaning, liberal anti-Trump people who are basically taunting Trump, the people who are taunting people who are supporting Trump in this attack, and they're saying like, "Oh, if you support war, then you should go on the front lines of Iran." But my question is, why don't they ever say the same thing when they were enthusiastically cheering for Ukraine to fight against Russia? Like, why don't they ever tell their own people, "Hey, you should go to the front lines of Ukraine if you support sending so much money and weapons to Ukraine." Like, I don't know if you can answer that, but that's just a personal gripe for me. And then another question is, when AOC said no war with Iran, do you think do you think she's actually that clueless that she doesn't even know that Iran is not the same as the IRGC? Or like, I find it hard to believe that she's that clueless. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you're saying there are a lot of people who are attacking Trump and saying, and the people who support Trump because of the military operations he started against the Islamic Republic, and they're saying that if you support Trump's war, you should go fight it yourself. I mean, that is the most retarded thing ever. I don't even know if it requires responding to. The reason why we have a government is because we give the government the monopoly to use violence. That's the whole point of having a government. We, like the citizens, the whole point of being a citizen is to vote for your government to decide when to go to war and how to use the power of violence that we gave it. So that's the entire point of modern nation states, for the government to decide who could do violence and when to use that in as a for the sake of the national interest and the security of the nation. And if they ever say, well, the Americans don't approve it, remind them that you live in a representative democracy, not in a direct democracy. I don't think they know the difference, but just tell them to shut them up. But and also, if they say no war with Iran, I would remind them that it's not Iran, it's the Islamic Republic. The Iranian people love the United States. In fact, they love the United States more than they love any other country on the planet. So there is no war with Iran. The war is with the Islamic Republic. And if they say, well, then no war with the Islamic Republic, say, I agree. That's what we're doing. There has been a war with the Islamic Republic started 47 years ago, and we agreed. They're like, you know what? Yes, you're right. No war with the Islamic Republic. What Trump is doing is ending the war that started 47 years ago. A war started with the Islamic Republic 47 years ago, and we don't want a war with the Islamic Republic, and that's what Trump is doing. He's ending it. So I agree. No war with the Islamic Republic. So go Trump. Thank you, Trump, for ending it. That would be the answer. And oh, regarding AOC, is he really that clueless? Is she really that clueless? She is really clueless. Like I don't know if you saw her performance in Munich. She is completely. She has no fucking idea. The only thing she knows when it comes to geopolitics is that Israel bad and free Palestine. That's her entire understanding of geopolitics. If you want her to comment on anything else, she's like, um, she has nothing to really add. Like, just go look at her performance in the Munich conference. It was embarrassing. I was feeling secondhand embarrassment from her performance.
So I was just
Well,
gonna say though, I
that's
understand where the liberals are coming from because they think that Iran is like Iraq, and seeing how many American soldiers lost their lives in Iraq. I know what they're trying to do, but I mean, I also think it's kind of stupid to ask someone to fight and put their own life on the line just to take out the RGC. I mean, I agree with you there, but like, I at least can understand why they say what they're saying.
Well, just to take out the IRGC has killed many Americans. The IRGC has killed many Americans, and they want to continue to kill Americans, and they fund people who kill Americans. So if you want to stop people from, by the way, can you mute your mic because I'm hearing some background? So if you want to stop Americans from dying, then you should support this military operation to end the war of Islamic Republic against the United States and the American people. And when it comes to comparing it to Iraq, that doesn't make any sense for multiple reasons. First of all, the problem with Iraq was not the removal of Saddam; it was the de-Baathification that came after. So the removal of Saddam was easy. The part that the Americans made the mistake is the power vacuum that was created after the Saddam's removal happened because they completely removed the Ba'ath Party and everybody that was associated with it. That's what created the power vacuum after, that caused Iraq to go into a decade of chaos, right? And basically brought ISIS. We're not we're not going to repeat this mistake with Iran, because Prince Reza Pahlavi has constantly mentioned that is not going to be repeated, and in fact he's doing a blanket amnesty for people within the Islamic Republic who are working, who don't have blood on their hand, they could continue to do their job in the positions that they already have. So that mistake is not going to happen. Second thing, the Iranian people's love for Israel and United States is unmatched. We didn't have that in Iraq. People were not this pro-American. So given that some Iranians love United States and love Israel, that's not a fair comparison. And another reason why this is not a fair comparison is because the Iran is a proper country with a ancient, a strong national identity that goes back thousands of years. Iraq is like a Frankenstein monster of three different things that are not supposed to be next to each other. It's the Kurdistan, is the Sunnis, and the Shias are basically forced together, and none of them feel none of them have a sense of patriotic Iraqi national identity in the way that Iranian people feel like they're Iranian. And this makes Iranian people much, much more eager to work with each other and work with each other as Iranians and to rebuild their country. They see each other as they look at each other as fellow teammates on the same mission. So and also they have the culture and the background and the institutional awareness and the political awareness to build something really, really great with cooperation with Israel and United States and other countries in the region. So that's why these comparisons are not fair. Like the idea that we're going to have like something from Iraq coming out of Iran doesn't make any sense at all. And okay.
Okay, let's go to China.
Yeah, I was worried about American support or not support for the war until Trump made his very brave decision. Thank you, Trump. I want to say that, Armin, your reactions to when the war started, when you woke up after 3 hours, you were like, what? And also when Khamenei died, I was crying with you. I was so excited and happy. I want to volunteer to do those clips explaining, because the most important thing right now is to explain to people in America specifically, so they back Trump. Here in Israel, there's support for this effort, you know. And I was concerned and worried when you were happy Ayatollah died, and when you said that this means that you're free. I was very relieved, because people in Israel are not sure that killing Ayatollah means that you're free. It's not a bridge that we are connecting yet. I was asking this yesterday when I went on the show. You weren't here. Sapir was also saying it's a process that to take us from Ayatollah dead to Iran is free. I was encouraged today on Tusi to see that Israel is starting to hit Basijis from drones. The reason I was encouraged is because, like you say, it's the last barrier. Armin, how sure are you that nothing will go wrong, and this political
Oh,
process will reach its logical conclusion with the Iranians being free now that Khamenei is dead, now that we can shoot the Basijis from, we are doing everything, but the Iranian people now have to take the baton and run with it. And we depend on you guys for that.
yeah. Okay. So when it comes to toppling the Islamic Republic, this is a cooperation between. By the way, Shai, can you close your mic
Yeah.
because I'm hearing some background? Thank you. So yeah, when it comes to the toppling the Islamic Republic, this is the cooperation between our three nations: the nation of Iran, Israel, and United States. And all of us have a role to play. And the Iranian people, without the Iranian people, this is not going to be possible. So you're completely right that the Iranian people are basically they need to do the final push. As powerful as the Israelis and the Americans are, you can't do regime change from the air. You need boots on the ground, and the only boots on the ground that you have, I mean, other than special operations and maybe like some commando or like spies on the ground, the only high level of boots on the grounds that you're going to have for regime change are the Iranian people. So we need the Iranian people are going to be required to do their job for this to get to the finish line. And as you could see from the speeches from President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Princess of Pahlavi, all of these people are relying on the Iranian people to do the regime change, because they all ask them that there's going to be a time, and now it's not the time, but the signal will come from all of these three people when it's time to come back into the streets in millions and get us to freedom. And the way they're talking about it seems like suggests that all of these attacks are for that moment. All of the attacks against Khamenei, killing Khamenei, Mujtaba Khamenei, Ali Khamenei, IRGC leaders, they all have been designed to bring about the time where the Iranian people could take back their country. So this is why we're very encouraged, because killing Khamenei was not just for the sake of killing Khamenei. Based on all of these speeches, killing of Ali Khamenei was to bring about the conditions for the Iranian people to be able to do the regime change. That is why we're very encouraged. So, but I did. By the way, I never suggested that there's going to be no problems. There's going to be problems. There's going to be challenges. Nothing is going to go perfectly. And how long this is going to take, we're not sure. The military operations could go on for another 2 weeks. I've seen some estimates that suggest that it could cause going on for 2 weeks. But the call to action for the Iranian people to come back into the streets might come at any time because of the way that these three men talk, and that would be what's needed. I am I'm very I'm very optimistic regarding our future, because I mean, I was even optimistic before this, because my understanding is that one way or another, if you look at the way the events of the past 2 years, even without the United States attack and Israeli attack, my understanding is that we're going to have regime change. But what these military attacks do is reduce the cost, right? One way or another, the Islamic Republic would have been toppled by the Iranian people, but the price that we had to pay would have been astronomically higher the time if the Americans and the Israelis didn't get involved. This is why we needed the Israelis and Americans to reduce the price for the toppling of the regime, the price of this revolution in lives. But also, this is very beneficial for Americans and Israelis, because if they weren't getting going to get involved, it would have been harder to justify the great bond that we're going to have after this revolution. So by Americans and Israelis doing this, they have reconfirmed the great bond that we have, these three nations of these people have with each other. So, and that's why this was obviously a major win for us Iranian people. But I hope, and I know that we Iranian people will build a very strong, prosperous country, and we will prove the Americans and Israelis that they could be proud of having us as an ally. And I promise you that we will become such a good ally to have, in a way that you will never wonder why you did this. Like, we will make it, the return on this investment will be 100 times more whatever the cost of was. Like, we will make it very clear that having Iran as an ally was worth whatever the cost the Americans and Israelis had to pay for us to get here.
All right, let's move on.
Thank
Next,
you.
I have David.
That this is going to be the
You get
greatest.
one sentence, literally one.
This is going to be the greatest alliance in history, and for right now, bepish, bepish, bepish.
Bepish. Okay. Okay, who's next?
I guess it's David's turn right now. Can you hear me?
Yes, David. Hi.
Okay, hi. Yes. Anyway, what I have to say sort of is in a totally different direction here. I'm sending you a couple small packages over to the Atheist Republic mailbox. One is going to be some 9-volt batteries and some jumper wires with alligator clips. The other one is going to be 2 silver wires of 99.99% silver. And the reason is so that you could make colloidal silver. Are you familiar with colloidal silver? I know this sounds like it's like, where is this coming from? Okay. The reason why I'm doing this, I'm writing a letter right now, Project Silver Lion. Currently, right now in Iran, as we're all too well familiar, there's a lot of people dying from infected gunshot wounds. No antibiotics, cared for at home by their relatives. Colloidal silver is easy to make with silver coins, silver jewelry, silverware. It was the original antibiotic from about 1900 to the early 1940s before it was phased out by penicillin and other manufactured antibiotics. But pretty much anybody could make it in their own kitchen. Arguably, probably penicillin and some of these synthetic antibiotics are maybe stronger and more effective, but this was the standard of medicine for internal infections for about 40 years. And I'm thinking that if the people of Iran could be given broadcasts of instructions on how to make colloidal silver, the vast majority of families in Iran, they have glass jars. They have access to copper wires. They have access to silver coins or silver jewelry. You need distilled water. You can make distilled water by boiling water in a pot, and the water that condenses on the underside of the lid is distilled water, and you can collect enough of it to create an effective antibiotic. And this might be able to save the lives of people who right now have festering wounds and fevers that are running out of control.
Okay, David, because we're past the 2 minute mark, the best information are like there are doctors on the ground there that are sharing information with them. So I don't know, like, so can you just quickly in 30
I
seconds tell me exactly what you're trying to say? Because
what I'm
I don't
trying to
know.
say, I'm writing the letter. I put it in the comments there. Maybe perhaps you could have someone who's not exhausted read it to you maybe when you're laying down. That might be a good idea. And it basically explains everything. Basically, the vast majority of people don't know about colloidal silver. It's still used
Right.
for wound dressing. It's still used for topical application, but people in the West who are sort of like health nuts are into it. And there's a lot of people making it
Okay.
at home. So I'm thinking that this could be an answer for a lot of people who have relatives who they're caring for who have gunshot wounds, and
Okay.
also for anyone else who needs antibiotics. Because it's going to be
Okay.
weeks before everybody is able to get
Well,
antibiotics in Iran that they need.
so what my understanding is that there's a lot of antibiotics. The problem is access. So if people could share information, they will be able to figure out where are the doctors who. But anyways, I'm not going to talk about this because I don't have any expertise when it comes to medicine. So I don't know. Maybe I could ask my dad about this because my dad is a doctor inside Iran. So next time I'm talking to him, I'll ask him.
If you could
But yeah.
send him my or translate my document, just tell him you could read it off to him, and maybe
Okay.
he'll realize they could use this.
Okay. All right. So guys, because I'm running out of time and this is not an area of my expertise, so I'm just gonna yeah. But thank you. Yeah, I'll look into it. All right, let's guys, the list is very long and I don't have much enough time. So let's just try to go through everyone faster, okay?
But next, I have a question from chat. Lindsey Graham said the goal of this operation is to change the threat, not the regime, whether it's a cleric or a group representative of the country when talking about new leadership. Is this another fake theatrics?
Okay, so President Trump, I don't know what Lindsey Graham said. What President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have said is that they asked the Iranian people to come out and basically capture their institutions, government institutions, and government buildings. Okay, so it doesn't really matter outside of Iran once we get rid of the suppressing forces, right? When you get rid of the suppressing forces, not even God can stop the Iranian people at that point to bring Pahlavi back into power make him the leader of the transitional period, right? So let people say different things. I mean, I think whether it is or not, it's good for confusing the Islamic Republic. It might actually help get some parts of the Islamic to try to get some other parts of the Islamic Republic to stop shooting at people or maybe stop, throwing missiles at things. So always giving some false hope to the Islamic Republic is a good idea, regardless of what your plan is, just to get some of them to just back down. And honestly, I'm not worried about whether regime change will happen or not once the suppressing forces are suppressed themselves, right? So once you get rid of that, everything else will fall like dominoes. Let people negotiate and plan everything they want. We running people would just say, just remove this obstacle and just see what happens after because we know what's going to happen after. So yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Next, I have Joseph.
I have a question because it was a name that, to be honest about it, brings up nightmares past of 79. Because when I was looking at potential leaders for what's going on right now, Hassan Khomeini's name came up. The Ayatollah Khomeini's grandson is is can you see anything where we don't see a repeat of where Pahlavi's father kicked the Ayatollah out in France and came back to become a nightmare, become that generated this 47-year nightmare? So my question is do you think anything's going to be done about him by a transitional government, or are we going to see a potential repeat of 1979?
Okay, so you're worried that once, like, so after that, like during the military actions taken by the United States and Israel against the Islamic Republic, you're saying that you're worried that instead of the Islamic Republic being toppled and Princess of Pahlavi coming back to Iran and we get to a secular democracy, you're worried that we're going to have a repeat of what happened in 1979 because you're hearing people like Hassan Khomeini, his name being thrown around, and you're worried that somebody like that could be pushed to us and we're going to have that again.
What I meant was, is you know how the Shah kicked Khomeini out of Iran,
Oh,
and then what I'm worried about is that he's going to leave, that Hassan could
oh, okay.
leave, build up a power base, and then potentially start a civil war. I'm probably not saying
Oh,
this right because I'm having an
right,
ADD moment,
yes.
but
So Hassan Khomeini is a reformer, which means that so-called reformer, right? Which means that he has zero support in Iran, right? So I don't know if you guys know about reformers, but they're hated by everybody, almost everybody. So the people who want to topple the regime hate the reformers more than they hate the hardliners, and the hardliners hate the reformers because they're reformers, right? So they are the most hated group of people inside Iran. This the only thing that the anti-regime people and pro-regime people agree upon is that we all hate the reformers, right? So I don't know with what base of support he wants to come back and do anything. Also, the Iranian people are a lot more mature than 1979, right? The Iranian people hate Islamism. I mean, honestly, they hate Islam at this point. They hate Marxism, and they are very obsessed with freedom of speech and freedom of expression and secularism and democracy. And I think the demand for secularism and democracy among the Iranian people is the highest in the world. And also beyond all of that, they're very, very, very pro Pahlavi. So this is not a nation that you could do what you did in 1979 with. The people in Iran in 1979 were not this aware. They were not this mature. They did not know what's happening. They were fooled very easily, right? To be fair to them, the modernization was happening at of Iran was happening at a much more rapid scale that they could understand, that they could adjust to. So it was hard for them to adapt to all the changes that were happening. But the past 47 years has created an obsession among Iranians to avoid everything and anything that caused it. Like we label all the ideologies that are responsible for the 1979 revolution, we call them Panjo Hafti. Like we have created like a category, a box, and anything and everything that is even remotely close to the philosophy of everything that caused the 1979 revolution, we put it in a box and we hate on it. We hate on it with such passion. So this is why the Iranian people chant Mullah Chapi, Mag Bar Se Fasid, Mullah Chapi Mujahid, which means death to the three corruptions, the mullahs, the leftists, and the MEK, which means that the sickle and the hammer and the turban, all of the ideologies of 1979 are over. These are the famous chants. And this is why they ask for the return of Pahlavi, because they consider the Pahlavi brand to be a shield against everything that caused 1979. And
Okay.
is for
Yeah,
me
look,
this society, you can't do 1979 again with
yeah,
a
but you can
nation like that.
understand my
Yeah,
concern because I was 13 years old when this all went down. So when this
right.
originally went down, so that's when I saw this. There's a name that's probably just as much hated by Americans, at least of my generation.
Mm.
Then, so like I said, that's the reason why I wanted to ask the question because I saw this name and I thought, oh God, Ghost of 1979.
I
Thank
mean,
you for
with
clearing
these
that up.
people, yeah. I mean, but just to give you some more confidence, but looking at these people, do you think these people tolerate a Khomeini? These people,
I
like in Persian, we say that they will shoot its shadow, like meaning that they wouldn't even let a shadow of anything with the name of Khomeini to come back, let alone Khomeini itself.
like I said,
Yeah.
I was 13 years old when this all started in '79. So, the name Khomeini was a boogeyman that I grew
Yep.
up with.
Yeah. No, I get it, but I hope now you feel a lot more reassured. You're, I know I'm saying this as an Iranian, so you might not trust me, but believe in the Iranian people. I don't think they're going to disappoint you. I've learned that the Iranian people in the past 47 years they have a much higher level of maturity and understanding and awareness, and that if you just trust them, they will not disappoint you. Like, this is what I've learned. And I don't know, I'm a biased source for saying that, but I truly believe it.